I simulated communism in this Minecraft village, and the results and the story, oh boy. But you might be wondering, well, isn't the whole point of a village to, provide us with infinite slaves, workers? Well, yeah, it kinda is, but you see, some people in the village don't think that. They don't like that their rulers treat them like slaves. Take these villagers for example. They're very unhappy. They want to talk of a time that'll be better for them. Meanwhile here, King Steve is just sitting there on his throne, looking down upon the peasants, wondering how he will exploit them next. But in a small house in the village, there is a communist, a man who wants to change the village for the better. This is Villager Lenin. Now, he doesn't like this unfair system. In fact, he wants to overthrow it. He's already tried once, but the King's Guard, yeah, they did some damage on him. So he spent a lot of his days hiding, trying to find a way to overthrow this evil king. Until one day, he found a book on the floor called Das Kapital. And in the book, well, it had several interesting things. Karl Marx agreed that everybody was built equal, that wealth should be redistributed, and everything was owned by everyone. That way, well, even the poorest of people would share the same things as the rich. Now, Villager Lenin, when he read this, well, he was amazed. I'm talking about massively amazed. So he gathered some of his villager friends and he spoke a speech to them.
All victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, enjoyed by one and all.
The villagers, they loved it. They were lapping him up and they encouraged him to continue with the revolution. So off Villager Lenin went.
Sigma, Sigma boy, Sigma boy, Sigma boy. Каждая девчонка хочет танцевать со мной. Sigma, Sigma boy, Sigma boy, Sigma boy. Каждая девчонка хочет танцевать со мной.
He had saved the villagers. He had liberated them from their evil King Steve, and now they were the ones in charge. Everywhere he went, the villagers were looking at him. But this was only the beginning. For Villager Lenin, he needed to make things a lot better. So our little comrade here, well, he delegated jobs. After all, everyone was in the struggle together. They needed to rebuild their civilization to make it a communist haven. He would sell his excess wheat to the farmers who would give him emeralds in return. And these emeralds, well, he used to build the Great Wall of Stone Bricks. He also put out the fires from the last war. After all, those fires were just a reminder of the struggle they had to go through to be liberated. Of course, there were a few enemies here and there, like this baby, who hadn't subscribed to Shay 3 Etox, so he got killed. But other than that, everybody was happy, except for a certain group. Some remnants of the old King's Guard, what they had converted into pillagers. They wanted to reclaim their land for their king, but in order to do that, well, they'd have to wage war. Despite being a prosperous civilization, there was no doubt that this village had no protection at all. So Villager Lenin, he had a plan. He called a speech and he told his comrades, "My dear friends, we are now going to be engaged in a bitter war against our capitalist enemies. But fear not, comrades, for I have a solution. These are the Timmy bots." The villagers, they all erupted. This was going to be a war that defined their history, and morale was high. The battle had been won. The villagers, they had now finally fought off their capitalist allies, and Lenin, he was celebrated. He was paraded through the streets, and he had now turned his village into one of the most powerful and most equal states across the whole of the Minecraft world. But then he had a thought. What if he just happened to walk by and suddenly his own comrades would turn on him and they would perhaps hurt him like how the pillagers had hurt him before? This could not be risked. He needed to hang on to his power. So what did he do? Well, he had to limit his citizens' rights, just to keep the state safe. Definitely not to take all the state's wealth later on. Nuh-uh, nothing suspicious is going on here. He killed members of the army that had fought for him. He killed members of the people who had helped him build a wall. In fact, he tore that symbolic wall down, just in case he would get trapped inside it and he'd be ganged up on. And well, slowly but surely, Villager Lenin's rule began to look just like the same rule as the old King Steve. If you guys like watching that simulation, all you gotta do is like and subscribe, and the top comment in this video will be featured in the next one. Until then, that's bye from me.
Эта вера от пули меня темной ночью хранила.